What's the YouTube? Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you the winner of our first poll, and that was Blackluster Soldier. So, as I was putting this deck together, I decided to go down a different route and make it quite aggressive as more of an OTK style, because you can utilize the effects more so of your rituals going second than you can going first. One thing that I did learn while building this deck is that this deck is massively lacking a lot of support. So hopefully in the future we get a brand new core booster set that will bring us more updates to Blackluster Soldier and more support. But with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more upcoming content. With that out of the way, we're going to dive headfirst into the profile, show you what we've got, and I'll explain as always why we've got it. So we're going to start off with two of the Blackluster Soldier Legendary Swordsman. Now, to my knowledge, this was the most recent card that we received, and we received this back in Maze and Memory last year. So hopefully we'll get a bit more than just one card support, but this one has the effects as follows. You get to ritual summon this card using Chaos Form or Super Soldier Ritual, and it must be ritual summoned. During your draw phase, before you draw, you can reveal this card in your hand to give up your normal draw this turn, and if you do, you get to add a ritual spell from the deck to your hand. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects during the battle phase, and when this attacking card that was ritual summoned using a normal monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you shuffle all cards your opponent controls back into the deck. So it's a very nice board wipe, but in a sense it is obviously more go second. There's very few effects that actually, if any, it has been utilized going first. So the best thing is if you're going second and you hard open this card, you can give up your normal draw to get you that ritual spell, and that can then hopefully end you with getting this card to the board. Now there is a normal monster that we do play, and that was what kind of delayed me building this deck, and that is of course was trying to find my own Darkblade. Good old school starter deck Yugioh. That's how old this card is. But that's the normal monster that you use, is a Dark Warrior, so you can utilize it with, of course, what I would say is one of the best ritual spells ever made, and that's Super Soldier Synthesis. Now what I mean by that is not so much like if this was applicable, as we flip it, to any other ritual deck, it would be absolutely insane. So this one allows you to ritual summon any Blackluster Soldier ritual monster from the hand or graveyard. But what it allows you to do is send monsters, a light monster and a dark monster, one from the hand and one from the deck to the graveyard, whose total levels equal exactly that of the BLS. On top of that as well, it lets you bring it back from the hand or graveyard. So what I'm saying is, this being one of the best ritual spells ever made, is if a deck had this requirements where it could send a material from the hand and then one from the deck, and then revive the ritual monster from the grave or from the hand, I think it'd be absolutely insane. I digress. Anyway, so we're going to go back to the ritual monsters. So of course we are playing BLS Super Soldier. Now this deck isn't a pure BLS version. If you wanted to, you'd be looking at playing Preparation of Rites alongside the original vanilla BLS, but you kind of want to make this as effective as possible while also keep maintaining its relativity and its actual aggressive nature. So this one is probably a bit more aggressive for OTK pushes in comparison to the Legendary Swordsman, but this one gives you the board wipe, and what you're trying to do is you're trying to get one, if not both of these on the board to complete your OTK. So again, you ritual summon this with Super Soldier Ritual, and if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack it has in the graveyard. If this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, or if this card in its possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you get to and sent to the graveyard specifically, you get to special summon a Gaia the Fierce Night monster from the hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only special summon this card once per turn, which is again why you're only playing one of it. And we're not playing a Gaia in the deck. Like I said, if you wanted to make it more Chaos focused, if you wanted to make it more BLS focused with the Gaia, then that's what you'd consider. But what I tried to do with this build is make it as competitive as possible with what it was able to do. Now, I'm not saying you're going to take this deck to your local environment and you're going to destroy all of the Voiceless Voice and all of the Fire Kings that are around. But if you were to take this to a themed event, or if you were to take this to a more casual local event where they want to be testing out different decks, then this is definitely one for you. Then for the BLS counterparts, we are playing 2 of the Twilight Knight and 2 of the Beginning Knight. So both of these gain or give additional effects to the ritual monsters when they are used as ritual material. So a Blackluster Soldier monster ritual summoned using this card gains the following effects. Once per turn, you can target a monster your opponent controls and banish it. And then when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it specifically to the graveyard, you get to activate the effect. It can make a second attack in a row. So again, you kind of see how you can utilize it by giving additional effects to the BLS Super Soldier. On top of that as well, is if this card is banished from the graveyard, you get to add a ritual spell card from the deck to the hand, which is quite useful if you go down more of a chaos route. Personally, I'm not playing a chaos route of this build. I'm playing a more aggressive build. The idea is to get a preview Kaiju to your opponent's board and to your board, and then get this guy on the board, attack the Kaiju, do burn damage, and then attack with your other Kaiju and kind of push the plays further forward that way. And then, of course, 2 at the Even Twilight, it gives the BLS monster that it was used as ritual fodder the following effects. Target a monster your opponent controls and banish it. Very nice. And then on top of that, this one, you can banish a random card from your opponent's hand face down until the end of your opponent's next end phase. And if it is banished, you get to add a ritual monster from the deck to the hand. So you can see where the Chaos kind of can utilize it a lot more. And that's where you'd probably go for a bit more of a grind game. But like I said, the engine that I've taken out for the Chaos engine, I'll explain. And that's kind of the engine that can become your Chaos engine, your more pure version, entirely up to you. And then playing 2 Envoy of Chaos, you don't have to play 2. I just actually quite like it because a lot of people forget the battle effect on this. And because we're building this deck to be a little bit more aggressive than usual, being able to have that during either player's battle phase to discard this card to target a BLS monster or a Gaia monster you control and give it 1500 attack until the end phase is very, very important, considering if you utilized or made the ritual monster with your beginning, it gets 2 attacks anyway. So 2 attacks, double burn, and you've got an additional 1500 attack boost. On top of that as well, if it does, every opponent's monster it battles this turn has its attack reduced to its original attack, which is quite important, especially if you're looking at like an access code. Not that your opponent should ever be making an access code going first, but you never know. And then on top of that as well, once per turn during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard, you get to banish a light and dark monster from the graveyard, except itself, to add it back to the hand. So again, you can recycle it, and that's how you can banish your beginning and your evening twilights. But this will be more for a grind game, so you've opened up something like this, access to one of these and the ritual spell, and then you're banishing them to get both the abilities again, so you can go again the next turn should your opponent break the board. The one vanilla of the Dark Blade, like I said, this is the Warrior Dark level 4, so it can be utilized in more aspects as well, but it's also one of the ones that could be sent pick up from the deck to the graveyard in order to kind of give the additional effect for the legendary Swordsman as well. And then for the ritual spells, like we've already kind of gone over, the Super Soldier Synthesis, and then of course the 1 Super Soldier Ritual. You don't have to play this if you don't want to, but I still think it's a really kind of cool card. So you can only use to ritual summon any BLS ritual monster, and you treat monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal exactly 8. During the main phase, instead of turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you get to banish this card, 1 light monster and a dark monster from your graveyard to special summon a BLS ritual monster from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. So why that's so good is this one will allow you to use your Kaijus as additional fodder. So if you don't have access to this, you get into this. 2 is more than enough because you do have plenty of ways to search it. Speaking of ways to search this, of course, we do play 2 Gateway of Chaos and the 1 Terraforming. Arguably, I'd want to play a 3rd Gateway of Chaos. I just couldn't find my copy, especially in a format with Draw and Lockbird running around. You'd probably just rather hard open a Gateway of Chaos than trying to terraform into it and then getting hit with a Droll. But this card is when it's activated, you add a BLS Ritual Monster or a Gaia the Fierce Knight from the deck to the hand, which is why you only play 3 Ritual Monsters. Very easily searchable. Technically, you're playing 6 copies when you consider, or 6 Ritual Monsters when you're considering this card as well. On top of that as well, each time a monster or monster card specifically is sent from the hand or field to the graveyard, you place a spell counter on this card for each of those cards, maximum 6. You get to remove 3 spell counters once per turn from this card to add a ritual spell from the deck to the hand, and you can only activate 1 Gateway of Chaos per turn, or Gateway to Chaos. So again, that's when you're going to get your consistent searchability for your ritual spells, meaning you don't need to clog the deck down with them. If you do hard open one of them, you've got the ability to search the other, and so on and so forth. And then for a draw engine for this deck, we are playing 2 trading. Now, obviously, I know we've only got 3 main targets here in the BLS element, but then we do have 4 additional targets in the form of the Kaiju Juice. So you're trying to get the best of both worlds off of this. You can very easily, if you wanted to, side these out and go for something like Lava Golem if you wanted to be a bit more aggressive, but you've got to keep in mind that it will use up your normal summon or take away the ability to normal summon, and that's where you'd probably end up losing the ability to normal summon beginning or evening. Not that you really need to, but just to kind of keep that in mind. These are probably going to be more effective to get them to the board, get them off the board, and then use them as banish fodder. Then, of course, we've got the 1 Call by the Grave and the 1 Reinforcement of the Army. And then for the hand traps, pretty staple on this one. We've got triple Ash Blossom, double Nibiru, and triple Imperm. So Nibiru, of course, can be very easy high-level fodder for being able to break your opponent's board going second. You'd have a very strong monster on your board. The only issue is if you do kill the Nibiru token with going back right back to the beginning, your Super Soldier, it won't do any burn damage because it's its original attack while it's in the graveyard. So it won't be able to do that. But being able to play Nibiru is probably like one of the best hand traps to board break your opponent. You could, if you wanted to, actually play D-Shifter in this deck because that will then obviously automatically banish these when you're used. Just to go double check this, I'm pretty sure it doesn't send. Doesn't send as cost, so that's kind of cool. It means you can still utilize it under Shifter. So Shifter is a card you could look into alongside Troll Tactics, Talents, and Thrust for a bit more of a consistent go second option as well. Speaking of go second option, we do play a nice little range of Kaijus. So you've got 2 Gamma Seals, 1 Gandala, and a Dogoran, just because these are the level 8s that can be utilized for your trading, as well as being able to get them onto the board through the back of Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. And the reason I quite like this is going second, you can break your opponent's board in the form of something like a Dark Ho-esque thing. It will also pull out Ash Blossoms if they do have them. But on top of that, it gives you a level 8 monster, it gives your opponent a level 8 monster, and usually more times than not, if you give them a Gandala or a Kaiju, Gamma Seal, they're going to be a lot weaker than your BLS. So you get to attack the BLS and you're going to do 3,000 damage or 4,500 damage if you drop a Chaos monster on top of it. One thing this deck will struggle against if it's going second is back row. So you are going to be utilising or maxing out Harpy's Feather Duster in a sense because you'll be using 2 Lightning Storm and a single Harpy's Feather Duster. Sometimes Lightning Storm can be great going first because you can activate this, not going first, but like going for the front row. Activate this, call the front row if they haven't got back row, and then they're like, okay, I'll have to negate it, and then you go Interrupted Kaiju Slumber. Or Interrupted Kaiju Slumber, Lightning Storm, either or. Another card that can help you not only OTK or break the board, but also help you OTK is Super Poly. Now, right now, you can adapt the extra deck. There's a lot of flex space to whatever is most relevant to the environment you are going to. When you've got to keep in mind that people are playing Voiceless Voice, which can be a very, very powerful deck, especially if they try and back it up with stuff like Summon Limit. The most or the more experienced players will try and play around Super Poly. So if this is not effective for your locals, Talents or anything else that you kind of feel fits best. Now this is your go second engine here. So you've got 3 Super Polys, your Lightning Storms, your Dusters, you've got your 3 Kaiju Slumbers, and then of course you've got your 4 Kaijus. You could cut the Kaijus down to 3 if you wanted to. It really is up to you. But straight away, that's a 13 card mini engine, and that can become your 13 card Chaos engine when you're looking at stuff like your White Wyvern, Black Collapse, your Valkyria, your Chaos Summoner, and then of course you've also got your Legionnaire Dragon. You then have Chaos Space and everything else in between. So that's where you can kind of interchange this section if you want to. I feel like the BLS little lineup is pretty staple on most BLS builds, but like I said, as a pure version or a pure aspect of the deck, it is kind of lacking, which I would love to see more support in the future. So moving on to the extra deck, we'll go through the Super Poly targets first already. So Mud Dragon, Garura, Starving Venom, and of course Draxtapelia. Adapt this to the environment. Like, these are the 2 staple ones that pretty much work everywhere. This will come down if the environment is more dark focused. This will come down if the environment is more about Super Poly themselves, because if they put a fusion monster on the board, you can go into a Draxtapelia. If not, you've got the Agnista, you've got your flex spots, should you want to put in stuff like SP Little Knight, if you wanted to put in Typhoon, Access Code. I've tried to keep the cost of this deck down a little bit where it's all possible, so you can kind of keep that in mind. Got the one Baguska. This is obviously going to be more effective for a Chaos variant because you're going to be able to produce more level 4s. It's just an option to show you that you've got the ability, if you do end up getting a Twilight, an Evening, or a Chaos on the board, put those together, go into Baguska, slow the game down. Because you do play level 8 Kaijus, if you've already broken your opponent's board, you've got a Kaiju in your BLS, but you haven't been able to OTK, you will be better off going in for a defensive Monster Negate, ability to send or protect from destruction, or if you wanted to, you can very easily put in a Hope Harbinger, but they will be more defensive options. You can quite easily play a Horus engine in the deck if you want to, but again, that kind of shifts up the entire deck to go, oh, it's a fun anime-esque filled deck, or I need to add £150 into it, just so that I end up playing with the engine more than I actually do the BLS factor. So, but keep that in mind, it can be done if you do have Horus and you're like, I want to try out different variants, that is one you could give a go. The one Zeus, again, like I said, you can very easily add in SP Little Knight, Typhoon. That's where more money investment comes down the line. Again, if you're playing huge meta decks, you've got all of the staples anyway, and you're like, I just want to change, I want to play something fun. BLS is one of my favorite decks. This is a version that you could trial out. For the Link Monsters, we've got the one IP, the one Dino Mundo, followed up by a cross sheet because we are playing XYZs, Fusions, and Rituals. So you're going to get Draw 2, Ditch 2, Revive a level 4 from the graveyard, which can be your Chaos Knights. And then, of course, you also have the ability to, I believe XYZ is Reduce, or is it Buff? XYZ is all monsters your opponent tries to lose 700, so it's a debuff. Obviously, Nightmare Unicorn is your budget SP Little Knight. And then, of course, you do also have access to Underworld Goddess. Appaloosa can become Boral Sword, can become Access Code if you want to put that little bit of investment in. It can also become an Abramax. But what I like to summon more times often not from IP Masquerena is to go into a BLS Soldier of Chaos, because being able to have this protected by targeting and card effects can be massively damaging, especially if you make it strong enough that they can't just make a access code to punch over it, and especially if you make it being able to attack twice, you're just basically stacking up effects. You guarantee your OTK for the next turnaround. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much it for the profile. If you do have any questions, by all means, please put in the comments down below. I will be more than happy to answer them. The idea behind this deck was to try to keep budget as a factor. Like, at the end of the day, you don't want to go out of your way to be spending an additional £200 to £300 just being able to play this deck at its max potential, because let's be honest, BLS is not going to be toppling the meta anytime soon. But I would love to see the day. Like, I miss the days where Blue Eyes was meta. Like, let's go back to those days. Those days were fun. But yeah, like, it's always something a little bit different. I just love BLS. We do get a BLS new monster, so before everyone's like, we do get more BLS support. Like, yeah, okay, we get a fusion monster, which is okay, but it's not really BLS related. I want to see more main deck BLS monsters. I don't want to be using my normal summon on Manju, which you could do in this deck if you wanted to, but I want to be able to use it on a BLS monster that could go into like a BLS Link 1, which will gain me some form of effect, which will allow me to be more ritual focused. I don't want to be playing BLS Voiceless. I want to be able to play BLS OTK element. I want to make sure that the BLS factor of this deck, which is around about 27 odd cards, maybe a little bit less when you consider the hand traps, as the main focus. And I think that's the difference between playing a deck and calling a deck a BLS deck, and playing a deck and building a deck that is a runic deck with BLS in the background, or it's a chaos deck with BLS in the background. You kind of want it to be the main focus of the deck, which is exactly what this is. These are to instigate your board wipes and your OTKs, while these are able to add additional factors to it. And your stuff like your Super Polys, your Dusters, your Kaijus are helping you break that board to make them as consistent and as powerfully competitive as possible with the current format. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.